Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased and delighted to be able to welcome all of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the Journal Club program. Welcome, and I believe today will be fun and full of learning for this coffee talk session. If you have any question or suggestion or clarification, you can write it at the chat box or you can unmute your mic to speak. Where I don't want to take too many time, let us welcome Ahmad Najib to fill you in with some knowledge about efficient manuscript writing. Ahmad Najib, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum and good evening, my dear friends. Thank you to the organizing team for having me. Thank you to all the participants for joining us today. I am blessed to be here. I hope everyone is doing well physically and mentally. Being a researcher or being postgraduate student is stressful, especially in the middle of pandemic COVID-19 where we have limited access to laboratory for data collection, and yet we have to publish to renew our scholarship. It's been a while since I joined Coffee Talk in organized by PPSK. So today I'll be sharing with you my perspective, my experience as a postgraduate student on how to effectively write a manuscript. I hope this is you consider this as informal session where we learn from each other. You can stop me at any time. So you can give suggestions, whatever you want. Before I start, let me introduce a bit about myself. Previously, I am a postgraduate student at PPSK. I started MSc in 2018. I submit a thesis in 2019 and graduate officially in 2020. Right now in 2021, I am a PhD student at Inform USM Kelantan. When I started MSc, I created a research kit account and I started to follow few researchers, researchers from USM and also from outside and other state and also other countries. What I noticed is that some students, they have outstanding performance, very good track of publications. I know someone, a guy, he has co-authored over 12 publications within just 2 years. So it makes me thinking, how on earth can a postgraduate student come up with a publication? I've been struggling to write manuscript, first, second, and third manuscript. The main problem is I don't know what to write. So considering that experience, I have that problem. So I consider that you guys may have similar problems. And we're going to look into that shortly. I published first manuscript in 2019, a research article. And then in 2020, I published a research article and also a review article. After publishing 3 manuscripts, I started to understand manuscript is a tool for us researchers to communicate with other researchers. I also understand how to write effectively. And in 2021, as of today, I have 5 publications available online, 4 manuscripts currently under review for publication, and 8 publications under preparation. It's a tough journey, but I have some tips that you may want, I may want to share with you, and I hope it's useful. When we attend a effective manuscript writing workshop, what they normally teach us is how to use tools such as Grammarly or Scholarly, Quillbot, Paraphrase. Scholarly is a software, or I don't know, a tool to help you to summarize manuscript. Also, they teach how to use Microsoft Words, Mendeley or EndNote reference manager, but to me, that tool is not really makes writing effective, because the main problem is not how to cite, not how to use Microsoft Words, not how to paraphrase, or we worried about grammar. The main problem is we don't know what to write. We have a title, we don't know how to start, how to keep going, and how to end the manuscript. Throughout my 3 years experience, I have very limited experience. What I learned is that you can effectively write a manuscript if you know these 3 strategies. Number 1, know the ingredient of the manuscript. When we in undergraduate studies, or if you join Mixed Mode program, we have a course called research methodology. So what they teach in research methodology is the ingredient for abstract, so that every student can write an abstract. As abstract, if you define, I define in my own way, is a combination of research background, research objective, general methodology, result, conclusion. It works. So the first sentence is research background in general. If you study like dengue, then you talk about dengue is a serious problem, especially in Malaysia. Then you go to objective, then you summarize your method, describe the main result, finally the conclusion. Everyone has been taught to write a proper abstract, but what I feel like lacking is how to write the introduction, how to write the methodology, how to present your result in a proper way. And also the most difficult part is how to discuss your finding. Here's my thought, or my perspective on what is introduction. I define introduction as a combination of research background, problem statement, rationale of study, and research objective. What makes me come up with this definition is that I started to read several manuscripts on various fields, and I noticed that the majority of manuscripts published in high impact journal, they have this kind of structure. For example, I have one publication. I studied one manuscript published in Nature. I'll share with you my screen. Nature Scientific Report. When you want to refer manuscript, try your best to find manuscript published in high impact journal, because normally it's something that we want to follow. If you want to publish in high impact journal, then you have to learn how those researcher write their manuscript. Because if you follow some journal that is non-indexed, you may find several limitations where sometimes the interaction is out of topic but still published, because maybe the reviewer didn't really concern about content, I don't know, but currently when I want to read manuscript, I try my best to go to Nature, like Scientific Report, Lancet, Science, JAMA, or New England Journal of Medicine. PLOS One is also good. Not only PLOS One, all journal published in PLOS, like PLOS Regulated Tropical Disease, all are good from my perspective. So back to the first point that I mentioned just now, understand the key ingredient, and the key ingredient in introduction is research background, problem statement, rationale of study, and research objective. It is as simple as that. It's not difficult. So this study, the authors conducted a systematic review on isothermal nucleic acid amplification for coronavirus detection. So you don't have to care about the title. Sometimes when I didn't really look into the main content. What I look at is the structure, because sometimes I want to write an introduction. I don't know how to start, so I search manuscript that is not related to my study in terms of the disease, but they share similar research design. For example, this research design is a systematic review. This is COVID-19. I'm not working on COVID-19. I'm working on typhoid, a disease caused by bacteria. So in this manuscript, look at the first paragraph. This is the research background. What is research background? It is an information, brief information or general information about your study area. Normally, if you study disease, then you talk about what is the disease, how many people being infected, how many people die, how the disease is transmitted. It's a general information. Maybe researchers from nutrition or forensic sports science, they have their own research background. I don't know, but majority of mine is disease. So it's everyone doing the same thing. They mention the story about the disease. And then the next paragraph, problem statement. In this study, the problem is the limitation of existing method. It's time consuming, expensive, something like that. So just one paragraph. This is a very good manuscript. If you had to explain to someone new, like previously I explained to internship student and it worked very well. They can come up with a very good introduction within a week. And the third ingredient is the rationale of study. Rationale means a reason why we want to do this kind of study. And the reason is for this study, the reason is because the potential of the isothermal amplification. I don't want you to look the detail, but you have your own reason for your study, why you, like say you working on natural plant, why you want to investigate that plant, or you have your own reason. So you may want to use that reason in your rationale of study. And finally, we have objective. But some good researcher, they don't just straight mention the objective. They add also significant, potential significance of their study. Significant means important. How can data from your study beneficial to the others? So in here, the authors mentioned this could guide clinical practice and highlight opportunity for future studies. So this is a very good introduction, very simple. And unfortunately, normally you see this kind of introduction in high impact journals such as Nature. If you go to moderate impact, then you may find that introduction is quite long, 6 to 8 paragraphs perhaps. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong, but what makes it long is that normally the research background up to 2 paragraphs, so they mention too much, even though sometimes we it's not related to studies. Like if you study a thesis and you developing new kit, and then you also mention about treatment. It's good to mention, but actually it's not really important about regarding the problem that you're trying to solve and this solution that you try to bring out. Also, they some study they have a very long problem segment, like 2 or 3 paragraphs. So that what makes the introduction a bit long. But please bear in mind that introduction is combination of research background, problem statement, rationale of study, and research objective. And the next part is methodology. Okay, now stop sharing. Methodology is maybe to some people, to majority people that I've met when I talk to, we discuss it. Methodology is the easiest part in manuscript writing. However, some researchers may find it quite difficult to write a good methodology. You normally people know the ingredient, you know what to write, but you don't know how to write. So this is the second point that I want to highlight in today's coffee talk session. Know how to write. How do you improve in terms of know how to write? So what I did is normally I go to study available manuscript with similar research design. If you're working on cell culture, I believe majority of postgraduate students at PPSK working cell culture and also plant extraction. If you start at writing methodology, then you can refer study with similar research design and you follow the subheading. It's okay to follow subheading and do not feel like it's a plagiarism, because for me plagiarism is when you copy someone's idea or when you copy someone's finding or opinion and make it like your own. That is plagiarism. But if you copy someone's idea on how to arrange the information, it's not a plagiarism from my perspective, because you want to ensure that the message that you're going to deliver can be fully understood. For example, if I introduce myself, like my name is Ahmad Najib, I'm 27 years old, and the next person, they have to introduce themselves. So they use the same style. They start with name followed by their age and also their address. It's not a plagiarism. They just using available style to make everyone understand easier. Or they can use a different style, like my mom called me like Najib. Or in Malay, nama diberi Ahmad Najib. It's not necessary, it's not really a big deal. But the most important thing is make sure the information is easily understood. So what kind of manuscript you want to refer? My suggestion for methodology, my suggestions is go to Nature, scientific report, and also PLOS ONE, because these two journal is well known as journal that really focus on methodology. They really concerned about the reproducibility of research. So normally you may find that manuscript published in these two journals is were very well written in the methodology section. And I tried this approach and it works fine for me. I'm going to show with you one manuscript. Share my screen again. So I'm developing a rapid diagnostic kit for typhoid. This study shared similar research design. The difference is that I studied typhoid and Stoltenberg, she studied Staphylococcus aureus. So when I'm about to write the method, I go to this study methodology. And I look at, okay, first thing that I should mention is the protein and buffer that I use. And I also noticed that, manuscript published in Nature is very good in terms of describing the methodology. For example, this one is PBS. Normally, we don't know the concentration of PBS, one-time PBS. But if you want to publish in Nature, you have to be very specific. You have to mention. It's a new thing to me and very interesting. So after I read this manuscript, I always follow the style. Every reagent needs to be mentioned in concentration. And also the brand, like Thermo Fisher or Sigma, whatever you use. I follow the subheading. I follow very closely their writing style, but of course, with slight modification. And it works fine. Unless you are working on something new, which is very rare, like you're developing new technology, then it may be difficult for you to find reference with similar research design. It's pretty rare, like for a student to develop new technology, but it's possible. Some students, they have that kind of research project. So I cannot guide you on what is the possible things that you can do. But if you're working on existing technology like cell culture, flow cyto, or plant extraction, you study histopathology, check animal tissue, then it's available in many databases. I believe it's hundreds or even millions of manuscripts available. You just need to pick the right one and follow the style. One thing that I want you to know, you cannot just follow one manuscript. I learned this from Dr. Mariam Azlan in 2018 or 2019, if I'm not mistaken. I attended a scientific writing workshop. So I still remember until today what she said is that when you want to write a manuscript, always have 3 to 5 manuscripts as your backbone. It's something that you refer. So why 3 to 5? Because if you follow 1 or 2, and it may be very closely similar to the one that you follow. So you want to avoid that. So always follow at least 3 or the best is 5. And you can follow the style for heading number 1, for heading number 2, second manuscript. So that's my perspective on methodology. If you don't know how to write, how to start writing, then follow research with similar research design. Same thing goes to result. We know what to write, but we don't know how to present the finding in a proper way. For you to do that, you go to available studies, obviously high impact studies. You check how they illustrate, how they present their figures, and how they describe the figures, the caption of the figures. You may want to follow that kind of style. You can also follow how they start to explain their finding. For example, recently when I did a systematic review, I don't know how to start describing the result. So when I look at available systematic review, like 5 systematic review, they have similar style in describing the result. They mention number of study that they found, number of studies that they exclude. So I start to understand that this is a style that I want to follow because it's been done by many researchers and especially published in impact like Lancet and also Nature. So it helps experience within a day when you know what to write and also how to write. Discussion. For discussion, it's the most challenging part, most difficult part. It's undeniable. If you say it's easy, then I may want to hang out with you and buy you a cup of coffee so that I can extract some of your knowledge. Because I find that discussion is difficult, even though after writing several manuscripts, still it's difficult because manuscript when they from various research design, they have different style. For example, research manuscript, we have several types of research. It could be experimental study design, retrospective study design, observational study design, diagnostic study. So this kind of manuscript, they have different style of discussion in discussion section. Even a review, normally a narrative review like a literature review, they don't have discussion, so it's a different story. But if you write a comprehensive review like scoping review or systematic review, then you need to have a section for discussion. Systematic review discussion is very different from research article, because in research article, what normally people do is mention their result and compare with other available studies published online, and then they come up with their own opinion after comparing. If it's different, then why is it different? And finally, they give some suggestions for future recommendation. That's what I did, and it works. For example, I study a disease, and then I found out the disease has no significant association between male and female in Malaysia. But in some other countries, the disease is more prevalent in female. And I come up with my opinion why that happened in the discussion section, and in the final sentence, what we can do. Obviously, because it's a preliminary study, our suggestion is what kind of future studies can be done so that we can improve our understanding on that topic. It's an observational study, that kind of introduction that I practice. But when you write a different kind, for example, systematic review, you cannot compare with other studies, because systematic review is a comprehensive review. And normally that kind of study, nobody ever done that. For example, recently I published a systematic review on immunodiagnostic performance of typhoid. So I combine all the available data on immunodiagnostic performance, come out with a new average. And then I get a new result that sensitivity and specificity is 90%. So I cannot compare with previous study that working on typhoid, because it's a new study and we don't have available data to compare. it made me wonder on how did people discuss. And when I look at other systematic review, what they normally did is they discuss the limitation of their review, and they give opinion on what can other researchers do to improve that knowledge, that field. Because normally systematic review or scoping review, it's about finding gaps. You notice that many people, they when they develop kit, they use blood. So none of that is saliva. It's a new gap. It's an important gap that highlight the needs for future research to start to evaluate saliva, because it's non-invasive, which is more suitable for point of care diagnostic. So the key point about writing good discussion is that you know the ingredient, and the ingredient is different from varied from research design, and it's quite complicated to share every research design here. So you may want to look into that, how you're going to look like. Later you can start reading discussion of manuscript with similar design to you, but you have to refer to high impact publications so that it's more convincing. And in my experience, when you follow high impact publication, then it be easier for you to, for your manuscript to be accepted in high impact journal. It's funny, when I start doing this, I still remember that during my MSc, our supervisor, they always ask us to, okay, submit to Q1 first. So I have this kind of mindset. Okay, this manuscript will not be accepted, but my supervisor asked me to do that, so I'm going to do that. And when you have that kind of mindset, yes, that paper will be rejected. That paper will be rejected. But then when I start to change my mindset, actually it's pretty rare. The rejection rate has reduced. I'm happy with that. But the point is, you need to be confident with yourself, believe that your work deserves to be in that Q1 or Q2 journal, and you can make it. Okay, last thing before we go to Q&A session, sorry for taking so much time. When you see someone with high number of publications, you may be wondering why. Same thing that I experienced a few years ago. But I found that one of the important strategy is that you cannot work on your own. If you work on your own, for me, I think you can produce only up to 3 manuscripts a year. And it's already outstanding. Producing 3 manuscripts in a year, it's awesome. It's like a requirement for associate professor in Malaysia normally. So what you can do is find your collaborators. I am lucky that I have so many collaborators. Collaborators could be lecturers, could be postgraduate friends. It could be postgraduate friends under similar supervision, or also postgraduate friends under supervision of different supervisor. When it comes to collaboration, you have to bear in mind that you cannot be a free rider. Obviously, it didn't work. Nobody's want to collaborate with you if you are a free rider. You put your name and you did nothing. It doesn't work like that. You need to contribute at least something. For example, I am co-author in a second systematic review. So what I did is that I contribute my knowledge to assess the quality of studies. So when you contribute something, they're going to include your name. So it's good for your CV, good track publications. And I have sometimes, I help my friends write introduction. So I became the third or fourth author. That's why I can come up with a high number of publications. And do not hesitate to ask friends for collaboration. And of course, you need to tell them what you can do before they decide whether or not you're suitable to be included in the publication. Also, talk to lecturers, lecturer, they have many projects, they have limited time, and you can help them like writing some part, and you can have one publication. One good thing is that you can learn a new knowledge. For example, my friend, they studied COVID. So when I offer myself, hey, let me write introduction for you, we can collaborate together. And for my research, you can write introduction as well. So I started to read about COVID-19. Really time consuming if you know exactly what you want to write. Maybe it costs you like 1 week, considering you work like 3 to 4 hours a day. And it's paid off, I think. You can have one publication by working for 1 week. I think that's all for me. I took too much time already. We can I can check your question and share whatever I know. Should I go back to one chef or anyone? Should I get back to you, or I pick the question myself?
Okay, thank you, Ahmad Najib. We can see that so many questions here.
Yeah, so many questions.
So we get through one by one. Okay, first from the faculty, how do you choose journal, as you mentioned, to decide which journal was your work?
Thank you for Crow. Long time no see you. I hope you're doing fine. So regarding journal selection, if I want to select journal for my reference, I always go for highest impact publication, like Lancet. Lancet, I think, is top five worldwide. I don't think I can publish one. But if I want to refer how to write introduction, that is where I go. Lancet, JAMA, Science, Nature, and also New England Journal of Medicine. It's a very, very reputable journal, and that is what journal you want to follow. But I'm not sure if your background is like other than biomedicine or medicine. So you know the best. You know best, you know better which journal is Q1 in that field. But for publication, normally how I select is I go to paper that I cite. Actually, I don't like calling manuscript paper, but sometimes it's turn out. Because for me, manuscript paper is like A4 paper. So to manuscript that I cite, then I check the impact factor, and if my supervisor like it, then we submit and pray so that it's accepted.
Oh, I see. So another question from I Amran. What motivated you to write? As you need to go through the writing process and then the peer review process in order to publish your works. As we know that published paper is very time consuming. So what motivated you to write?
Yes. Thank you, Ayn. It's a very difficult question, actually. Writing a manuscript is not an easy task. It requires lots of motivation. But the most important thing is it requires passion. If you like doing something, then you don't mind to stay up to do that. Like if you like to watch movie, and you don't need motivation to watch a movie, so that's something that you like. But of course, sometimes we are tired, and we feel like, oh, I don't want to do this and that. But what motivates me is my future goal, actually. I believe that, as a postgraduate student, how to measure performance or your personal satisfaction is by measuring the number of publications, so number of presentation that you give during your postgraduate studies, because I believe that right later when we graduate, it would be very, very competitive for us to get a job. If you like doing research, if you want to go for postdoc, I have experience, in attending a postdoc selection, and one of the criteria that normally the employers or the boss look at is publications, because that is what their KPI is and what lecturers' KPI is. So because of that, I have a goal that I want to graduate perhaps in 2024 with at least 30 publication in my CV. So that's what motivates me. Sometimes when I tired, I have to push myself so that I can achieve that goals.
Wow, great.
I
Another
know
question
you
from
may have different perspective. That's my perspective. If you want to get a job letter, you need a number of publication and also good interpersonal and presentation skills.
I believe everyone has their own future goals and their own milestone to publish the paper. So another question from Safa. Earlier you talked about the plagiarism. In your opinion, which you suggest to reduce or avoid the plagiarism? Probably use the fantastic or bombastic English words or anything.
Okay, thank you, Safa. Yeah, plagiarism or similarity report is one of the common problem that we encountered during manuscript preparation. But actually, it's not really a big problem, actually, if we are writing using our own words. Because from my experience, normally it's not that we have to come up with a manuscript with less than 10% similarity index. Below 30% is acceptable for research manuscripts most of the time, if you look at the publication requirement. So if you have similarity in sentence that is common, for example, how you mention p-value 0.05 is considered significant. So the majority of other researcher, they use that sentence as well. It's common. That's why we have that like cut-off value for similarity. To let's say you after you finish, you check the Turnitin report, and it's above 40 or 50%. What you can do is, try to use your own words. I'm not sure if write using bombastic, fantastic English works, because actually, when I prepare a manuscript, I don't really care about the language as long as it reflects the information that I want to tell. Then it's fine for me. It doesn't have to be like someone from literature background. I never really had problem with similarity actually, but I think some people, they use Quillbot to paraphrase. Maybe you may want to try that, or you can use Grammarly. If you use Grammarly, you can double click and they suggest alternative synonym. Because I have a friend that said similarity normally is counted when you share similar 5 words with other manuscript. So when you check in Turnitin, they highlight the similar sentence. You can change the verb in the middle, and hopefully the similarity will go on. This is just my suggestion because I really had experience or problem regarding that similarity.
So I believe many students use Gilbert and Grammarly because it's more easy to us to replace the sentence from the journal. Another question from the Safa. Let's say the manuscript got rejected after the first submission in the Q1, which is most likely lah. But so, do you advise to submit Q2 or another Q, like Q3 ke Q4 ke?
Thank you. Yeah, from who is that? Whose question is it?
Safa.
Oh, Safa. Thank you again, Safa. Yeah. From student perspective, when our manuscript rejected, it's actually a good thing. I learned a lot from reviewers' comment on how to improve. Like recently, okay, in the earlier stage of my research journey, I received comment like discussion is too weak, because normally during undergraduate study, what we did is we explain the principle of PCR, principle of ELISA. So in real manuscript, it doesn't have to be like that unless we write a book and we have to explain the principle. But it's a learning process. Every comments allow us to grow, and it makes you improve in the future. Regarding whether or not you have to submit in Q2, it depends on your perspective, also on the comments, but not really. It's very rare that you go to Q2 because the reviewers give you bad comment. Because normally when you write a manuscript, you should know to which journal it belongs, because we when you read manuscript from Q2 journal, you look at the content, you look at the types of analysis, how much work they've done, and how impactful is the research is, and you can predict. So it's not about reviewers' comment, it's about our own perspective to which journal that we have to submit. If you have like 50-50, some journal Q1 is not so strict, then you can consider that kind of journal. Like if you submit to Nature Scientific Report, it got rejected, and you don't have to go to Q2 straight away. You can go to Q1 with lower impact factor.
Like the Nurul Hajar said, just a bit from her experience. Of course, we need to target the high impact journal, but in the reality, you need to step from the down to the higher of that. So another question from me and Kak Faizah Hamdan. Do you get the writer block? If yes, how you overcome it, writer block?
Actually, what is mean by writer block? I'm not really familiar with
Means
that.
that you don't have any creative idea to write. You just open
Okay,
the Microsoft
I
Word
got
and
it.
blank it.
Thank you, An. Yeah. Writer's block happened to me many times. And that is, I think, the most common problem faced by postgraduate students or researchers worldwide. So whenever I have this kind of problem, when you have no idea what to write, always study with similar research design, and you will get some idea. If you look at one, you didn't get the idea, and look at another one. You should have some idea. If you still couldn't get the idea, that it's something wrong. Because because when you have a good reference, you can just try to use that style. Or maybe some people want to share what kind of writer's block. Maybe if you write a very novelty study and you cannot find reference, my suggestion is to talk to the supervisor on how to solve a problem. But from my experience, normally what I did is by referring to the backbone, just like what Dr. Mariam said. You need to have backbone research manuscript. I hope I answered the question. Back to you, Wan.
Fakrul Razi said Najib tak ada writer block sebab tu dia tak tahu. That's what
Actually, I have writer block, but normally I solve it by, reading other manuscript and copying their style.
Okay. Another question, probably the last one from Amran. How do you deal with the procrastination when you write the manuscript? Procrastination ni macam melengah-lengahkan, menanggung-nanggung.
Actually, it happened to me many times. Like right now, I have 8 manuscripts on due with several people. And if I didn't procrastinate, then maybe I can finish 50% of that anyway. But it's a common problem. How to deal is very difficult when you ask someone who cannot even deal with it. What I did is normally I talk to people and then you try to set a schedule. That's why in research you need a team. In here I have like 4 to 5 people working together. So we keep reminding each other. Like my friend, he is writing a systematic review since February, still not finished. So I tried my best to frequently ask him like every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks so that he can avoid procrastination. Same goes to me. I tell my friends what I'm working. Sometimes I offer opportunity for collaboration. And when you talk to people, then people start asking your progress. And when people ask your progress, it's kind of motivation for you to start working and avoid procrastination.
Wah, banyak. Okay.
But if you have friends that don't ask, then it's a problem. So maybe you should talk to your friend. Let's remind each other in future so that we can grow together.
I see. A team can make
Teamwork makes
us.
teamwork.
Yeah, it works. So guys, do you guys have any question more before we wrap up? I
Who is FY?
F1 is Fakrul Razi ya.
Oh, hi Baguru. Hi Gemini.
Eja, boleh sembang. I believe there is no more questions from audience. So thank you Ahmad Najib for the fruitful sharing session. I believe we have so many new knowledge in terms of to write manuscript efficiently. Thank you Najib.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and good luck to your future endeavor.
Thank you. Same
Thank
to you. And same to everyone. Good luck your future journey. I hope everyone's graduating soon.
Okay. Goodbye everyone. You can left this meeting. Thank you Najib.
Bye. Hope to see you one day.
Yeah, me too. See you in future.